Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, if you're new to the Win with Dice podcast, this podcast where we talk about tabletop RPGs, running them, playing them. Calvin and I like to take a casual approach to DMing, and we just like to share our experiences, both as a player and behind the screen, just so you guys can learn a thing or two and possibly jump on the other side of the screen and become a GM, like we are. That's the whole point of the show, just for us to talk about the hobby that we love and get more people into it.
Yeah, try to demystify the whole thing and make it pretty clear how easy. Well, not easy. I mean, I do this every single time. I say it's easy, but it's actually not easy.
How doable it is.
Doable is a good word. So this week we did want to continue some of the Lancer world building stuff we started last week, including some of the ideas that people had dropped off in the comments. We wanted to integrate some of those to see if we could mix everything together, and then maybe add some people to this setting, like a faction or something like that. But before we get to all of that, we have to get to the most important part of the show. The Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week.
Yes, the Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week, brought to you by Ramon. I was actually watching a couple videos about how the MCU kind of sucks now.
Okay.
And some of the videos I watch is like how the villains kind of suck specifically. So this tip of the week is about, kind of reminding people, because I was like, maybe I'm also bad at this. I'm very bad at villains. I love having like friendly NPCs and quirky character moments and meet cutes, but having a good villain in my campaign is very hard for me, because I'm not a bad guy, and it's very hard for me to be a bad guy.
Understandable.
But the idea is that, so you need your players and the big bad to interact, maybe not directly, maybe just through some minions, maybe through some encounters, or just chasing them or something like that. But the idea is that the villain, one, is the hero of his own story, and the PCs are the bad guys. And two, the villain needs to lose the battles because the players need to win, but they can't lose the war, because then, what's the point? They're just gonna win. Like, the players are gonna beat the bad guy in the first encounter. So it's like, whatever the players do and whatever the players accomplish, like, stop his lieutenant, or save the town or whatever, the villain's already moved on to the next phase of his plan, or the villains have to be one step ahead of the players until the players are able to kind of turn the tides and become one step ahead of the villain, or like come at the last second and stop his evil plans right at the crescendo of his machinations, or her machinations, I should say. Like close the demon portal, or like stop Armageddon, or like, actually we found out your one weakness, that kind of deal. So yeah, there's your quick tip of the week, folks. Just make sure your villains can keep on with their evil plans despite the players being heroes.
yeah, like you want them to feel like an active threat that the players actually have to engage with if they want them to stop doing whatever it is the villain is up to.
Yeah, right. It can't just be like, oh, we just critted and then he's dead. Like, it's...
I mean, to be fair, though, in a game where there's 20 possibilities of anything that could happen, there is a lot of stuff that could happen.
Yeah, one of them is dead. The other one is you're dead.
No, yeah, I mean, that's something that's like really hard to... I've talked about like dice balance before and all that sort of thing, but... that's one of the things I like about certain games, like say like Mutants and Masterminds, where they have that inbuilt system for GM fiat, like for the GM to come in and like make something terrible happen, but the players get a reward, like they get a hero point that they can use later for their own advantage or whatever they need to do. But It allows the GM to be like, okay, the villain is going to do something, it's going to be a pain, but here's a cookie and you can use it later.
Yeah, right. So, again, I'm not the greatest at utilizing this, but ever since kind of like solidifying that idea in my brain, I think moving forward, I was talking to my wife about the pirate game, and how she's like, oh man, like I don't know what the big bad is doing, or why the MacGuffin is the MacGuffin. And I was like, you're right, but to be fair, you guys barely care about that stuff, so why would I focus on it? But I should probably start putting the big bad guy and her machinations in front of you guys, so you guys start caring about it. been too many dates and shopping lately, so gotta get back to saving the world.
I mean, yeah, sure, I guess. I mean, we did kind of leave pretty quickly when you showed up. So
you're like, no, I don't really want to go do that.
Hey, man, they're not being the talents exploding.
Yeah, I know. I gave the option to her character, who is carrying the MacGuffin, to be like, if you toss it in the ocean, it's gonna be very hard for them to find it, and you could be scot-free, and you can just go on more dates and eat more noodles or whatever the character wants to do. Get married. I don't know. We're all playing a very different game than Pathfinder in the pirate campaign.
Kind of. All right, well, let's get into the episode. We do also have more copies of Pierce the Heavens to give away. We wanted to include some of the people that dropped comments previously on the episodes in this giveaway as well. So I'm going to draw that now, and then we'll reach out to the people or the person who won in the comment that they left. Probably should have done this at the top of the episode, but we're doing it here. And picking a random name from the list. Endless Potential Energy, who left a comment on our previous Pierce the Heavens interview with Valkyrian. Yeah, your name just popped up. So we'll be dropping you a message, probably an email or anything like that, whichever is easiest for you if you're currently listening, or I'll just reply to your original comment and we can get in contact with you and send you a link to download a copy of Pierce the Heavens.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. That's exciting.
Yep, we still got
a good
good
module. Or I guess it's a module, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a shorter. It's like a module adventure, not an adventure path thing, as I was trying to remember. But yeah, we'll get that sent out. We've got one more to give away, so be sure to drop a comment below, and you might be the next one to win a copy of this book. Now let's get into the actual episode, the meat of the episode here. So last week we did an episode where we just took some random tables and kind of built out not so much a solar system. Presumably there's a sun, but it's more like a small planetary system with a handful of locations that are in the rings of this gas giant. We had this sort of, the main factor was a station that people were living on. But we also had this inhabited moon that was nearby, the first planet we made, this icy hot planet, and a blink gate as well within the orbit of this gas giant. Now, we did get some cool ideas from people here, so what I wanted to do, what we could do in this episode, is just go over the comments that people left, take those things and add them into this space that we're building, in this series, apparently. Add them into the space that we're building.
We're mostly just exploring the Karrakin trade baronies like subsystems that they've introduced, because these rollable tables and the way you can generate stuff is actually pretty good and awesome, and kind of helps jumpstart your world building for your Lancer game. So we're just like, let's just try it. Let's just give it a shot in real time and see what is possible.
Exactly. Again, like with random tables, they sort of like put something in front of you that you might not have thought of, and then you have to figure out how to make that work, as opposed to just building things by yourself, which you can have good ideas with that, obviously. But you don't get in your head as much. It comes down
to space Nazis at the end of it. It's always like the bad guys are space Nazis. It's like,
surprising amount of those in space.
I've done that before several times.
So let's get into those comments. Will just work backwards, or however the YouTube backend chooses to sort them. So we'll start with Mitchell's comment here, in regards to the planet being tidally locked. I believe he's talking about like the icy hot planet that we had that has like this frozen barren surface, but also a massive volcano. Where one side is like hot and volcanic while the other is frozen, and it might go through like hot and frozen seasons. Assuming it has an elliptical orbit, which brings it closer or further from the sun.
I mean, that also can happen from like tidal forces, like the actual, because we're flying around a gas giant, obviously that gravitational pull will warp and stretch the planet so that can actually like make geological activity happen. So yeah.
Totally.
There was also like a mention of like I commented that what if the volcano was like an ice volcano, because I think Io does that, but don't quote me on it. But yeah, there is like, you know, icy rocky planets can, you know, spew out like ice straight up into space, because volcanoes just kind of do that.
Totally. So is this planet like largely like how volcanic do we want this planet to be then? Because I'm looking back on where we were before, and pretty much the only really warm thing was the volcano itself, and we had pretty much built that being part of the system connected to the orbital city nearby, where they're transferring like heat and materials from that. But if it's an ice volcano, presumably it's not as warm.
Well, yeah, it's
I would have to assume.
Well, it could have seasons. The idea that like, you know, the elliptical orbit or just like the phases of like where the moon's being pulled on, right, could be like you have like a hot season where everything's kind of magma boils on the surface, then a cold season where everything is just iced over, right? And like maybe like there's like seasons where the volcano shoots ice and seasons where the volcano shoots magma. How about that?
It could be that, actually. It could be that, because it could be something where what's being gathered from the planet in this big space elevator depends on basically the state of the planet in that moment, whether it's getting like heat and magma and various materials and whatever from the planet's surface, and then maybe it switches to like getting ice or something from the planet's surface that can be transferred to water or whatever. Maybe there's some other chemical mixed in with the water on the surface of this planet that they're also harvesting.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Just it doesn't even have to be like the one volcano. It could just be like a range, and sometimes it's like ice, and sometimes it's magma, or even like if you go deeper, you can get to like the planet core or like the moon's core, and it's like hot. It's a hot moon, right? So
yeah, there could be like, I think because the random thing we chose last time was like a series of massive mountains.
Yeah.
So definitely there could be just like multiples of these that they're gathering something from. Because I think last time we had talks about the elevator being directly connected to this space volcano for some reason. But Tim brought up a very interesting concept that we could also work with, and I think that might work with there being multiple volcanoes on this planet.
Yeah. I also do like the idea that like the space elevator isn't just like one space elevator. There's like multiple space elevators like anchoring it. So like, you know, there's like maybe 3 points of contact.
Mm-hmm.
So it's because space elevator is also a good way of like getting around places. Instead of being on the surface, you could just take the elevator up a little bit, go across, and then go back down, kind of like that.
Oh yeah, that's true. I was thinking more like a tram thing, but that's...
I mean, you could have a tram running on it if you want. Like, you could have a tram going, like, up and down the anchoring points, and the tram going across, like, laterally to the other tethers. It doesn't have to be, like, a rigid structure either. It could just actually just be, like, a couple of, like, rope. Not rope, but, like, you know, the cool space rope.
Yeah, something like detach and reattach as the need presents itself. I just think a vertical tram is cool.
Yeah, okay. Sure, let's do it. Vertical tram it is.
I mean, this could be anything, basically. It's a sci-fi world, which is bordering on magic. So...
It's called paracausality. It's a field of science.
Mitchell also brought up the concept of the voladors, which I wanted to ask you about. If you could give more explanation on them, because I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I always forget about them because I'm like, I need like a weird science thing. It's always like the NHP is crazy. Like that's like my first go-to. It's like the NHP did it because it's weird math, and and it doesn't like being weird math. But no, it's the Volador are like these travelers. They're like basically like traveling merchants. And they have such like, they always like carry like a bunch of weird paracausal artifacts or technology or information, right? Just stuff that like, how did you even have this kind of deal? And they kind of just pop out of nowhere. They believe that they were like a fleet-based kind of society, and they just kind of show up, and they're like, oh hey, and they do trades, right? They just show up and they trade for resources. Maybe, I don't know if they trade information with people, but it just depends what you're offering, that the equal like what they're gonna negotiate for. Funny enough, Voladors also use the Spar people as like bodyguards a lot of the time. So another way to put in some cool the Spari people, who are probably one of the coolest people that's ever existed in fiction.
So what's their deal?
So like the Spar come from like this. Okay, so the Spari people were from, I think, one of the like colonization fleets that Union sent out. If this is wrong, please correct me in the comments. I'm going straight from my memory, which I haven't read in a long time. But the Spari people essentially, like, they landed on this barren planet, and like they were like, oh, I think it was like the first colony ship, but before NHPs, before all of First Com and all that stuff. Right. So they landed on this barren planet, and it was hostile, it was bad, it was frozen, there was all this megafauna everywhere, and because of the lack of resources, and like they ended up even their ship ends up even like deorbiting, so there wasn't really any way of escape. So they like lived this like hard lifestyle. If you think about like the Fenris from the Warhammer 40k universe, that like icy cold tundra kind of environment, as well as they have like giant sea monsters and things that just bury underneath the ice and stuff like that. So they're like a hardy ass people. And then I guess hundreds of years later, Secom, may have been First Com, but Secom launched like a like another colonization effort, and then they landed on the planet, and then turns out they're like, oh, this planet's barren. I was like, oh no, it's actually full of Spar people. All of the Spar people, because they're jacked up people, killed all the Secom dudes, but the NHP that they brought along was like, oh crap, I have to go in survival mode. So because the Spari people had never seen an NHP before, it basically like kind of scanned their religion and found a place where it can just be like, oh, I am this god, right, that you worship. Okay. And then the NHP, because cascading is a thing, right? It cascaded, and it truly believed that it was this god, and like made a bunch of copies of itself, and like taught the Spari people about technology and stuff like that. And then I think Secom showed up and was like, all right, this is dumb, we need to kill this NHP. And then I think they succeeded. But in the end, after all of that, the Spari people they entered back into like the Union space as these like badass like warriors who also have like a spiritual connection to technology. So it's like cool. The way that they like have like a concept of like NHPs and like AI and like all the kind of programming, it's like they're like spirits, and it's like when you have like a Spari like hacker person, it's like they're actually like an exorcist or like a shaman, right? That kind of deal. And like, they just have they have all these cool tattoos, and they use mechs to fight to like hunt giant like predators on like the tundra, and like they have cool spears and tattoos, and they're like, I don't give a fuck about you, I'm the Spari, I only believe in like brute strength and honor and stuff like that. So they become really, really good guards, and I think they're widely used as like not mercenaries, but like as like personal guards, because like a Spari warrior is like the best hand-to-hand combat. Like it's basically like the Vulcans. You know what I mean? Like if like someone shows up and they're not like of the Spari caliber, like they just get wrecked. But if like in a scene a Spari dude gets wrecked, it's like, oh man, that guy must be really tough.
That is. What book are they in? Do you remember? Or
they're in the core rule book. Like there's like a little note about Spar. Yeah, yeah, probably.
Look, I use it for rules reference.
Yeah, I just use it for the cool mech pictures.
I just look at the cool pictures.
Yeah, it's like pew pew lasers. Look, that guy had a big gun. There's a cowboy mech.
I mean, I did read the timeline part.
Yeah, but that's just like, I mean, obviously I could open up the book and read it like verbatim, but it's like, no, I'm if I was wrong, tell me in the comments. But I don't think I'm wrong to say that the Sparrow are cool.
No. Okay. All right, well, that's something I didn't know, and that's something I'm going to have to go read later because they're giving me some character ideas. But back to the comments. Mitchell was suggesting that the library is a Volador library as well, encrypted by a mad NHP who makes it impossible to read anything there.
Yeah, definitely. I hope he's like a sphere, too. It's like a mad, angry sphere.
I was kind of, possibly. I was kind of picturing like this angry librarian personality, but obviously shaped like a sphere.
Yeah. Totally guilty Spark vibes. Like that's exactly
yes.
what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. I mean, yeah, I like the idea that also like the Volador probably was like, hey, you can use this self-replicating tower to mine this planet. Maybe there was a trade long ago for the details about this area, but also like inside of like the tower itself is like a rogue NHP, like the core of like the actual like circuitry and stuff like that, or like the data, I guess the programming is like this cascading NHP called like the librarian or something.
Yeah, something like it would be the something
guilty library.
Guilty library. I don't know. That feels like something else. Yeah, I like the idea. I like the idea of just like this floating sphere librarian. I was trying to figure out how the Volador would feel about putting an NHP in charge of a library. I guess they would be cool with it if they revere them so much.
Well, I don't think the Volador reveres them so much. I think it's just that like, hey, this is cool. You want it? I trade you this for some this monkey's paw. And they're like, okay. It's like, I haven't read too much into them because I always forget about them. But they're definitely some cool interactions where you can, they'll trade like literally anything for anything for the most part, as long as it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe there was some intense trading that happened, like all the way up to a space station.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, or even just like the location of this thing, right? Because maybe like instead of it being the space station is the thing that it's building, they're really just kind of piggybacking off of the existing tower, so they're just building a bunch of stuff around it, but like the core tower is like actually just the self-replicating thing, right? That's like the thing that they showed up on, because if something's already here, you just build around it.
Right.
Which, to be fair, the funniest part, this is basically still Halo we're describing. Because like I know that the prophets, like their race, or they're like the first ones to find like the one of the arcs that the Forerunners left, and they built their whole ship.
Yeah.
Like the what's it called? The big giant planet ship that they had. The Ark. Maybe it's called the Ark. Like that thing is powered by one Forerunners thing, and they just kind of move it around. And then I remember like in the last game, like one of the prophets just like ups and like yeets it out of the ship, and then the whole ship just starts falling apart. Because the whole power source was like that one thing, right? It was like, because the Forerunner tech is so good. So maybe like that's the case for us. Maybe like, this self-replicating tower is like, super awesome Volador tech. Or maybe it was lost first com or secom tech, because then we can introduce a little bit of like, Shaka's bit, because like maybe the thing that the gang found was actually like maybe an offline protector.
Oh,
of
it could
the
be.
tower.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of it
like,
being a... Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying I like the idea of it being a SecCom thing. I did want to keep the element of it being traded, though, but like perhaps the details of what was traded to the Volador and the whys and hows and everything were lost to time at this point. Or the information's in the library, but Guilty Librarian won't let you read it.
Yeah, right. And it's like, that's the whole point of the tower, is just like to keep building itself higher and higher, because it's just going to keep storing more information or whatever, right? It's a deep lore store. That's what it is. And like maybe the tower also goes like down into the thing. Like it grows outwards, but it also goes like downwards as well. That's some cool imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's also like a like a meta vault. Let's just rope in all of the tropes
all the Lancer
possible in
stuff.
this. Yeah, I mean, in this one situation. like the top part is like where the space station is, and where's all like the regular people live, and like deep down in like the volcano, the ice and magma volcano is like it goes into the meta vault, and the whole point is that like, you have to grow outwards so you can grow inwards at the same time, because that's just how it works.
Yeah, but the only way to get to the meta vault is you have to wait until it's got to be in between, because during the hot season it's too hot, and the cold season it's all frozen up. There's only a specific point in time where you can some real weird fantasy stuff.
Yeah, right. And then SecCom, it was an old SecCom establishment that the NHP kind of went wildly out of control, because it's been a long time since someone got back there to deal with that shit. And maybe there's like an old war machine that the gang dug up and is being a dick about with, but then the guilty librarian gets back control of it, right? And then it's like, oh, I have to take off all this other extra stuff that's in the way of my beautiful tower.
Yeah, that could be the overall adventure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That was.
Well, do we want to cover Shaka's comment then? Since
sure.
We've brought it up, and I don't think we've described it out loud, because Shaka more directly commented on the inhabited moon that we came up with in the world generator, but didn't really put anything on. And he had suggested that there's like massive glaciers that are protruding from the ground that people can, harvest for fresh water. But also on that moon is an old SecCom war machine that was buried in the ice, and some gang has taken control of it, and they don't really know how to use it. He also suggested that like some accidental fire may have damaged or blown up some of the orbital city, resulting in the Lancers coming to help people and also stop that weapon from firing again.
Yeah. Maybe they're like threatening the space station with it, but then maybe like the Volador just knew the location of a meta vault, right? And the giant space tower is actually just the meta vault.
Yeah.
Right? Like, cause meta vaults are never really explained, because it's just up to the GM what a meta vault means to you, right? So maybe the meta vault itself is like this giant tower that stretches up into the sky or whatever, right? That's to do with all these weird volcano stuff, and space station's attached to it because it's people are trying to like not deal with the meta vault, but like they don't really know what it is, but they're just using it to anchor their stuff too.
What if the library is like trying to get information from the meta vault? Like part of what it's doing is to understand the information that's in there, as well as store whatever other history and data and everything else that we had talked about last time as well. And like it's because I'm kind of picturing now that it's just constructing itself, because I mean, one, it needs more storage space, and two, over time it's just that whoever constructed it was aware that they might need to make more permanent livable space here, so it was kind of on an automatic run. But the library itself is probably the main focus, and the secret library part that we talked about is just like siphoning what it can from that buried meta vault.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the idea is that it's self-replicating just to get more people to show up and deal with it. Maybe it was set up before by SecCom to like automatically like do it, and we'll come back later, and so we have like a better team or whatever or more people to study it or whatever. It could just be just like they like that wasn't even the main thing. They just considered like, oh, we might need to have more people here or colonize this space or just make it more livable, and then the machine just kept going and going with no way to stop. Yeah, and then the other habited moon, right? So maybe it has like a doomsday death cannon or something. They just like have it, but SecCom put it there just in case they need to blow up the meta vault. Because things got like something too weird. Yeah, they're like just point a gun at it, and if it fucks up, just blow it up. If things start getting weird, just apply the force. Yeah, I like that. I like the idea that there's like this planet buster, just aimed just at the thing. If they can't contain it, or not even contain it, they like deem it too weird.
I kind of like it might even just be if someone else takes it, to be.
Oh, true. Like if somebody else shows up, like another group.
Yeah, like if they lose control of it, or someone tries to take it over, or it's just if I can't have it, neither can you, sort of thing. But that was the idea that Shaka dropped. And I did also want to talk about Tim's idea, which was sort of a description of how the elevator might work. Basically running along a giant track connected to the surface of the planet, with like this massive chain, where like there's links on it where things can be transported from top to bottom, and sort of he gave this visual, which I thought was very interesting, of feeding a long rubber band through a straw with one end sticking out and looped around a basketball, and the other end is around like a golf ball, and that's just in like constant rotation. Because if it slows down, then the station could fall out of orbit, or the station, it could crash, or the inertia could cause the elevator to just like snap completely. And I like the unique idea of the shape of this thing, and just trying to visualize how it would work.
Yeah, that one sounds tough, man. I don't really know how orbital elevators. I mean, it's all theoretical because we don't have one yet.
Yeah.
Right. To be like, this is how you do it. It's just like, But yeah, that's like kind of nuts, because then it's like there's like this huge. Someone had to lay this huge track like all over this planet's surface, and then through space around this other giant thing. It's pretty metal.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm into it, because it's just a very, like, how, but also that's what makes it cool.
And why? How and why? And is it rad? I think it is. I don't think it's not.
Because I'm trying to think of, like, I mean, yeah, why would they make it like this? Why would they need a system that's in constant rotation? At least in regards to the station itself, to be constantly rotating the planet.
Yeah, I think we have to shelve that one for a minute so we can figure that one out. I think that I'm not a physicist, but if you are, in the comments, let us know if this makes sense.
We're talking about meta vaults, and who cares about physics?
All right, let's generate some factions. Let's roll on this table and see what's up.
Okay, fine. All right, so the table we're using is in the Karrakin Trade Baronies book. Again, it just has a bunch of tables you can use to create a faction as well as a barony house, which I wasn't really sure if that's where we wanted to go with it. If only because I feel like that's going to add a bunch more plot stuff that we need to consider. I kind of just like the thing being out in space on its own, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely just use the detail. Like, we just skip the barony section and maybe come back to it after we generated one.
I mean, like, well, to be fair, like, there's a lot of cool stuff in the barony section that I want to use. I just don't know if I want it to be a baronic house. I just want to have like a cool symbol and a cool motto.
Okay, well, let's just use it. It's half the fun of GMing is picking and choosing what tools you want to use.
Indeed. All right, well, let's get into this. So, first off, we have to figure out what type of faction it is. I don't know, do you have a D6 in front of you?
I do now.
Okay.
2.
Well, a 2 would be a peripheral polity.
Peripheral polity? Oh, I see what it is. Okay, so it's like the central government versus auxiliary governments, essentially.
Right, so is that like a government of like a smaller space, or is that just like...
No, so if you go down to like the faction subtypes, it like lists them. So it's like, the core polity is like the core thing that they're like, I guess, associated with is like, like technocracy, or like it's a corporo state, right? Mm-hmm. Versus like, oh, it's just a port, right? It's just like, like a big picture thing versus like a small picture thing. Like it's like, a church or something like that, right? Just like.
Okay, so there's like the one overarching form of government, and then there's like a smaller, I guess, is it like more insular, or is it just like over a...
Yeah, it's just like a smaller scope, right? Like the idea versus like a whole technocracy society, or like, group, versus like just like a city state, or like or like a port, right? Like a port is like, on the periphery of like how a place interacts with everybody else, right? Or like how a church has like, it's just like more grounded, I think, versus like these big picture ideas.
Okay.
This is what I can glean from it. I don't really know what peripheral polity is. If someone can educate us in the comments, I would love it, because I'm not too versed in this kind of stuff.
No, I think that makes sense from what they're describing here. Okay, so a peripheral polity. I guess I'll roll a d6 and we'll find out just what sort of peripheral polity it is. A 6.
A commune?
I don't know where this is going. All right, so we're dealing with a commune sort of faction, like a sort of its own community, a community unto itself.
Oh, maybe they're a community of smart people.
Yeah, so like a commune is like a group of people living together, sharing possessions and responsibilities.
Okay, cool. So maybe they're more of like they're like a cooperative, like commune cooperative. They're like the same word.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a good point of reference. I guess that makes sense for a group of, I mean, even if they are Volador, I was kind of picturing them also being like very intelligent, very equal, a bunch of librarians.
I guess from the narrative, I think the Volador is not even involved anymore. Like the whole idea is that the Volador just gave them the place, right?
Oh,
and
maybe.
They're like, hey, you can just do here. We know about this place. You can go here. Here's the information on it, right?
True. It could be because how, if we're saying it's pretty much forgotten the details of how Secom got this place and how it ended up in Union control. However, the Volador got it is probably like way, almost nearly impossible to know.
Yeah, for sure.
Although that might not have anything to do with whatever faction is here. Well, the faction could be the original builders of this place, I think, is what we're going for.
Really? Okay, all right.
Is it? I mean,
shit. All right.
Maybe we were on different pages there.
All right, cool. It's a commune.
Well,
I feel like we should just go on the science one. Like, if we're like, it could be like it'd be easier to justify than being here. But a commune, let's just roll with it. All right.
You sure you don't want to cheat?
Never. Let's go into
Never. Okay. So what is this faction then? Because I think we thought it was different things.
Yeah.
Is it something that's like active in the space currently, and then we'll just figure out where it is?
Oh, maybe the commune could just be the people like mining the glaciers. I was like, oh yeah, there's like just a regular place for people.
Oh yeah, the moon's inhabited.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, these are just regular people in a commune. It's like it's just colonists in a commune.
Yeah, they have their own community, but they also export ice.
Yeah, like that's what they do. They export ice to the crazy other space station. Where they're doing all the weird science stuff over there.
Yeah, they're like, those guys are weird. They live on a space station, and the other people are like, those guys are weird. They live on a big rock.
Yeah, maybe they also transport it to the blink gate as well. Like they could use, maybe the blink gate also uses like water, or like, they can refuel ships. That could be like a place that they could just, get fresh water or resources or hydrogen for thrusters. I don't know, like whatever space stuff could come from the commune. It could just be that's what they're there for.
Okay.
Yeah. All
right. So, do we want to give them a house name?
This Baronic house is just random.
Just a handful of people on this one moon.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't have to be like a house. I don't know if it has to be like a house of thing, but yeah.
I think we should skip the Baronic house and make another one. I think we just need to talk about the regular people now that we got on this regular people train. Then we'll do like the Baronic house as being like an antagonist because it's easy to put them as antagonists.
Sure. How many? Yeah, I mean, the only antagonist we have so far is just like that random gang.
It's the random gang and the guilty librarian and the Metavault with their weirdness. Like that's. Oh, yeah, that could be cool.
So do we want to have a Baronic house that acts as like an antagonist here? Maybe they also want feels like it's bordering on, maybe like this place is just somewhere that Union and the Baronies want.
Yeah, that's true. That could be like an interest thing. Let's use the details, like the details chart. That's a little bit further down. And we can get a little personality into these.
Sure.
This commune on this icy moon.
Okay. Well, I'll roll a d20. Or actually, no. You should roll. I think it's your turn to roll.
You know what the issue is too is that the problem is like because there's a blink gate, like technically like that this planet is connected to all other planets with a blink gate close by.
Yep.
So it's like actually really easy to get here. So maybe that might also be a problem.
I think it's mainly the library. If the library itself is actually trying to translate a metavault, then if someone's trying to access what is inside a metavault, then they just have to get into the library, which some people might think might be easier than a metavault itself. Like, especially trying to find one and hack it, as opposed to trying to find, well, they know where the library is, because the space is easy to get to, so they just have to hack the library, which they'll assume is easier.
Okay, so I got a 12. So they're upstart. Okay, cool. That's pretty good.
Upstart, and I got to roll 1 for the second column. 13. Humanitarian.
They're
So
upstart humanitarian?
that's possible.
They're here to help. Maybe that's why the gangs are upset. They don't want them. Okay, so they're upstarts, so they're focused on the humanitarians. They're focused on helping people, right? They're commune, right? They're always like, let's work together, right? They're upstarts, so like they're willing to like get new ventures and support people for doing new things and stuff like that. And they don't like the gang because the gang are a bunch of dicks. They're nice people.
Yeah, I mean, the gang is just like using old weapons to harm people. I feel like that's against humanitarian values anyway.
Yeah, all right, that sounds good. All right, cool. All right, let's see what the fears are. I guess I'll
roll a d20 twice, so I'll roll again, and then you can roll again.
Okay.
And I got 11.
And I got 3. So it says roll twice and discard and repeat. So 3 is conquest, and 11 is fear understanding.
Well, let's just flip that because I don't know if that makes sense. They could desire understanding and fear conquest.
Yes. Sorry.
Especially if they're humanitarian.
I read that the wrong way. So yeah, they desire understanding and fear conquest. Maybe this, this humanitarian upstart organization, this commune, this little ice harvesting, operation. They want people to understand that they're not here to do anything but harvest ice, and they're just trying to like help poor ice farmers.
I mean, it could be that they want to make sure you don't go through it too fast or something, or I don't think that's going to be a problem if it's a whole moon full of ice, but they want to do it in such a way that people can get what they need without disturbing the environment to the point that it's not able to produce what they need.
Yeah, well, it could also be like, they're maybe instead of it being like the actual colonists or ice harvesters, maybe it's actually a group. Maybe it's like a cooperative of like, because the blink gate kind of opens up this not this whole solar system, this whole system to like outside influence, like that's like way faster because having a blink gate means like you're a part of the whole union, like you're 100% like you're more closer to Earth than everybody else. Right. So maybe these people, like this faction that we're talking about, are here to support the colonists, but they don't want the colonists that like they've been here for a couple of generations to be like, they want to understand the colonists and they want to work with them, and so everyone can grow together because they're like they're in it for everyone. But they do fear conquest, not maybe of themselves. Maybe they fear conquest from like corporate states or like some Baronic house, or like even just like union as themselves. So maybe this organization is trying to be like the middle ground a little bit more,
right?
In terms of like maybe some negotiations, or maybe between like these like the actual ice farmers and the people who have like stakes in the land versus like the corporate overlords. That's always like a good pitch. It's like maybe like the actual ice, the habited moon that they're harvesting this ice and minerals and stuff like that to like they build the blink gate, right? And then the space station itself is like maybe that's like corporal held or like maybe even Baronic held or something like that, and their fear because like the blink gate's really kind of supporting that endeavor, that like they're also in contention with like all the people in the station doing the weird science stuff and like the corporate states trying to like muscle in and get a piece of the pie, and them just trying to hold their own ground. That's always like a cool situation to be in.
So they're just like right in the middle of all these potential conflicts that might boil over. They could be the ones that if in this game campaign, whatever it is, if the players are acting as mercenaries, they could be part of the group that they could be the ones that maybe reach out to them, trying to find somewhere to mediate between all these different other factions that are in this space.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe the gang doesn't even have to be a gang. Maybe they could just be like this mercenary company that like went off the rails a little bit. They're a little bit too wet worky or something, and they're just causing a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, someone could want to cause disruption here and just like get some mercenaries to pretend to be troublemakers, or find a group of people who don't mind blowing some stuff up and then give them some equipment.
Yeah, maybe there's dissonance in the colony, right? That are like the I guess this ice mining operation that they're like, forget this, if they're gonna deny us some rights or something, or it's always it's those people over there, they're the problem, and they just shoot the space station with the giant laser cannon because they just found it.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, okay, I think I like that actually. Do we want to add some history and beliefs to this group? Some important objects or events?
Let's see. These get kind of weird.
They really do. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, one of them's like an old mask and a suit of a Volador. Like, holy. That's intense.
Okay, do you want to roll for a significant object and I'll roll for a significant incident?
Oh, shit. All right. Okay, but we got to make them connect. All right.
Okay, yeah, that's the thing. We have to make the two connect. Okay, we'll figure this out. Well, I got a 16.
And I got an 18, which is exactly what I read. The old mask of a suit of a Volador.
And I got the incident being a revolution, which was quick and bloody.
What? The Volador were the bad guys the entire time. I don't know. Let's see. All right, let's do this. Let's reach deep into our GMing minds.
Yes.
And come up with this.
Would a Volador suit like have some sort of function or purpose? Would it maybe have told them where this thing is? Maybe where this Metavault library is, and there was some sort of battle over that knowledge, and the people who came out victorious wanted a more peaceful solution to the fact that this thing exists, and that's part of why they're there.
Maybe we should disconnect the object to the incident. I was like, maybe I was wrong.
I don't know. We can make it work.
Here's your secret second tip, folks. Sometimes you could just be wrong, and don't be afraid to just say, nope, my ideas are bad, but not incorrect. Yeah. I was born stupid, but I will not die hungry. That's what we're gonna do.
Wow, where did that come from?
I stole it from Action Button Reviews. He capstones all of his reviews with that, and it makes total sense to me. I feel like I live that life every day. So maybe the old mask and Volador suit was the item that was traded, right? Maybe it's like the only thing to really get into the Metavault. Maybe it's just like you have to put it on, and the librarian would be like, "Oh yeah,
you're this person." Like it's an identity sort of thing.
Yeah, it's just like all it remembers is like the suit and the mask.
There's probably some underlying circuitry or RFID sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not even the cooperative. Maybe like maybe the cooperative did find this stuff. Maybe this old Volador mask and and suit was like found in the ice, or maybe with the SecCom stuff. So that can kind of link those two ideas, right? That the idea that the Volador are actually the people who gave the location to this place and were involved with SecCom and their tomfoolery. That kind of connect those two threads, just to kind of have a further proof. And maybe they have it could be like an item that is significant to maybe not the faction overall, but maybe just like the place. Like it's of like narrative significance, and like the incident could be what did you get again? It was 11, right?
It was 16.
No, 16. Sorry, like a revolution, a quick and bloody one. Like maybe like the actual experiences of the commune was like a bloody revolution where like they had to fight off some corporal nonsense, and they're like, never again shall another settlement be usurped by the corporal overlords. So that's what they do. That's why they fear conquest so much.
And then some of them are like, you know what, if the corporals are coming for this station, why don't we just blow it up instead?
Or the corporals own the station. Why don't we just blow it up instead? So yeah, there you go. And like they're humanitarian, maybe because like they don't want people to take advantage of the less fortunate who don't have a bajillion manas or something like that. Except like, the people involved with the Meta Vault are just trying to study it, but also they work for the bad guys. It's just kind of can get complicated.
Yeah, everybody's a good guy in their own story.
Yeah, and like lives lost are still lives lost. Like there still was a dude with, dreams that just got vacuumed out to space, right? Because some asshole pressed the red button.
Yeah, because they thought they worked for the wrong company, or that if the corpo owns your life, then you're probably better off being spaced.
These humanitarians are getting radical.
To be fair, I just mean a small group of them, not the whole thing.
I was like, dang, man.
I'm kind of picturing there's a small amount of them that are like, a little less humanitarian.
A little bit less, yeah. We're humanitarians. And then SecCom shows up and makes things all worse.
They shouldn't leave their stuff
round NHP. There's a weird round NHP being weird in the library.
It's the perfect story, really.
This does sound like a Lancer campaign.
Now it does.
There's all this like political nonsense, and then all of a sudden the science fiction happens.
Okay, so we've got a couple more tables here. Significant locations and interesting people. Do you wanna? We'll just do the same thing. You can roll on the location table. I'll roll on the people table.
All right, let's see what we got. 8. A hollowed out asteroid that holds many secrets.
I mean,
a hollowed out moon that contains a weird spherical weirdo. Like, no, a hollowed out asteroid that holds many secrets. Oh, this table is working us today.
Well, they're in a planetary ring. There's a whole bunch of asteroids around them.
Yeah, that's true. They could just have like a base out there.
Yeah, there's also like the moon itself, which could be hollowed out, but I'm kind of picturing like a smaller rock that's... I don't know if nearby is the right word.
Well, you could have a moon with a moon. There's nothing stopping like...
Yeah, I mean, orbits...
To have smaller orbital bodies, like... so maybe this glacier moon, maybe the small hollowed out asteroid has the SecCom destroyer laser beam.
Oh, yeah.
So like, the glacier's where everyone is, but like the actual like place where the gun is mounted and the power source is, maybe it's just like a smaller orbiting body. This is like crazy because like this is still just in the planetary ring.
Yeah.
It's like the scope of space, man.
What this could also do is it could act like a time clock to trying to stop the people who took over that machine, because they could be waiting for it to line up again to make the perfect shot. God. Because you have to consider like all the things that are orbiting, because this asteroid's going around the moon, the moon and the icy planet are going around the ring, and the station's going around the planet. So it's kind of...
That would be nuts, Calvin. That they just like it's just literally like we're waiting for like the orbital dynamics to get back into alignment to fire the fucking gun again.
Yeah, like the gun probably takes a while to like charge up or something, and they only get like one shot.
Yeah, maybe they could like reorientate it, but they haven't figured it out yet, or because it's old SecCom tech, it's like busted or something. So they really only can shoot, the clock is right twice per day.
Yeah, the firing mechanism works, but the aiming, like all the gears are jammed or whatever.
Yeah, so they just literally have to wait for it to turn to go back around because it's like super powerful, but just kind of stuck in the one position.
Yes.
Oh, that's groovy. All right, I like that part. And this was like maybe they were like they didn't even know the gun existed, and they were just like on the base, just like chilling. And then it's like, oh, but they got booted out because the radicals showed up, and it was like, we found out that this was a gun, and they're like, no, don't shoot the gun. Then they shot the gun, so they had to leave. And then now it's like, Lancers, please help. There's a bunch of assholes with a big gun pointed at a maybe not weird sci-fi thing. Help.
Well, I think that's cool. For the person, though, I got 7, which is a foppish but sympathetic noble. I guess this group has a leader now.
Maybe we should go back
Yeah.
and roll in the Baronic house now.
Oh, yeah?
Because, the Baronies also don't like SecCom.
Oh, so you think, like, they're tied to a Baronic house, and then they were just living out on this moon? Yep.
I think specifically, yeah. I don't think Baronic. I don't think that's relevant, but, like, I'm pretty sure SecCom were the ones that came and conquered Karrakin. Not conquered, but, like, basically was like, you're part of Union or else. Kind of deal. But forget about that. That's like ancient history, technically. But yeah, I mean, you can have a foppish leader. It doesn't have to be a noble. Maybe like we can make a Baronic house that this noble is a part of, and it's like, dude, you're supposed to be doing a good job. What happened? And then now the real guys have to show up.
Oh, maybe. So I'm trying to figure out how everything works. So they're part of a house, and they were like, what were they meant to be doing here?
Well, it's like maybe they like, I mean, like Duke is technically a part of a like they're not like a minor house, right? So Duke is a part of a minor house, but he doesn't really follow Baronic interests. He mostly just follows his own interests, right? Like he's not like, he doesn't care about the house in general, but he will use the house's resources to his own ends. So maybe this, foppish but sympathetic noble is like, maybe he wants to be a humanitarian, but doesn't really know how to go about it. And so maybe he keeps making mistakes and not really understanding what's going on, but his heart's in the right place.
Right.
But then, his other people in his organization, with the radicals, are like, screw this. It's the corporo state's fault or whatever, right? Because he's the leader, but maybe it's not like a Baronic house thing. He just kind of funds the stuff, right? Because the money flows from Karrakin. So he funds the stuff, and he's like, dude, you're not doing a good job. We're just gonna shoot this place, and then it gets shot at.
Okay, so I mean, are they still in control of the moon? I don't know if we lost that thread, because they could be trying to offer, helpful resources to the people on the station so they're not so much under the thumb of a corpo state, and water being one of those significant resources that every person needs.
No, flip it around. So, the corpo state is the one that's in control of the station, and then the regular people are the ones who are just kind of mining the ice.
Right.
Or you can flip it around the other way. Either way, there's this foppish nobleman and his crew are here to help, defend the interests of the common people, right? But they're a little radical cell that decided to they found a SecCom, gun and shot at the corporal people, whichever way you want to aim it at.
Yeah. Well, probably at the station, I think, because there's probably more people on the station, so that seems like a bigger threat.
Sure, yeah. Maybe the station is just like some free-minded people, and the corporal are the ones who were like mining the ice planet, and then they took over the giant laser guns. But why would the giant laser guns shoot at the space station unless they're for the corporal people?
I mean, like, again, like, I think it would have to be like some sort of corporal control over the station. I'm kind of thinking that's where they would be, because that's where the majority of people are going to be. So if they want to have some hold over the area, it's probably gonna have to depend on like where most of the people are. Even people who like work on the moon and stuff might not be permanently stationed there, or work on the planet rather.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, okay.
If you want to control the people, it's got to be the station where they live.
That's true.
That's why I was thinking that whatever this commune is probably has to be stationed on like the inhabited moon or something.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they don't have their hands on, if they don't like control it significantly, they're probably outside that space. But still working to like establish communication or peaceful communication between the multiple factions that are in play here.
Apparently from this one faction generation. Okay, cool. I mean, there's like pretty nuanced stuff you can get down here. I think maybe our circumstances, because, we don't have like an idea we're pulling from. We're kind of just mushing it together a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But this table is wild, man. Like all of it's wild.
Truly is.
I'm like thoroughly impressed that like you can just use one of the tables to like spin off wildly into another like a direction or an idea or something like that. So
yeah, I kind of want to. I wonder if we should round this out with another set of tables, but I don't know what other tables there are to use.
Yeah, we need to balance this out. It's a little too crazy, this humanitarian thing. Maybe next time we'll roll multiple times to get a good narrative cohesion going. Because like I don't think we should be beholden to dice.
No, that's the fun part.
I mean, this is why we have two different perspectives on the show. I will just make up the numbers, and Calvin's like, no, the dice makes up the numbers.
It's like that meme with Mr. Incredible where he's like pointing at the book. I'm like, dice is dice. Okay, well, I guess we have some people here. We have a faction here. We have all these crazy ideas that people have left in our comments section. I still like this giant track thing. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Tim, if you could explain yourself a little bit more, like that would help me out a lot.
I think it makes sense.
Okay, all right.
With the visual that he gave.
I mean, like I see it, but then I blow it up, and it's like all I can see is like a big bike chain, like this, like a multi-gear bike. That's like what I'm envisioning.
Sort of.
But yeah, hey, if you your commenters, let us know what you think other factions could be in play here. Obviously, and like tell us your experience with if you guys are using these rollable tables to generate a faction or not.
Oh yeah, and also there's a bunch of great Lancer third-party stuff out there. If any of them have any cool tables we could use in the finale of this world building series, unless we do something different between now and the time we record the next episode.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I don't know what else we could fill in this space here. Maybe some campaign stuff. I feel like a lot of campaign stuff is spawning out of the characters that are in play here. But if there is something else we could put in this space, I kind of like the idea of this campaign setting being in the rings of this large gas giant. But yeah, if there's any other tables out there we should try to make something with, just drop a suggestion in the comments, because maybe we already have the book that it's in and we haven't read the whole book. Like you do. Alright, folks, well, if you've enjoyed that, again, please just drop whatever ideas or anything you have below. I don't know if this is going to be... We're not going to publish this or anything, I don't think, but it's cool to like have this project ongoing. And again, if you have, yep,
it's fun. It's fun because you know, we get to interact with the audience, and you know, get people who have better ideas than us to add their own, and then, you know, we have something together. It's something cool.
Yeah, people who have more time to think about their ideas instead of rambling through a random table. And if you have some great ideas, just drop them below. Before we head off, I do want to give some shout outs to people such as the Okua Station channel, where the Plymouth Rock Lancer actual play series started recently. We got a link to the first episode below, as well as all the other cool Lancer third-party people we've talked to. I've got links to all their things below in the comments or the description of the video. Also, want to make sure I give a shout out to the Untold Stories project, where I'm at on Mondays and Tuesdays playing in their superhero games. Also, they're doing a bunch of one-shots this month for Halloweeny stuff. So, I mean, they're not calling it Halloweeny stuff. I don't know why I did. But last week they did a one-shot in Modern Age during the French Resistance, which was ran by Alex, who we've had on the show before. We're doing some Deadlands. I don't want to give too much away about what's coming up next in the last couple of weeks, because I think that's going to be really fun and interesting. Basically, Call of Cthulhu meets Kids on Bikes, so that's going to be really fun. So definitely be sure to go check out their Spooktober event. As well, because I forgot to mention this before, Untold Stories Project recently launched a Patreon. So definitely go check that out. Give them some support. It's a really cool channel, and they've got a lot of awesome stuff going on, so be sure to check that out. But I think that's going to be it for this episode. Anything else you want to say before we head off into space?
No. Send them off.
All right, well, for all our planetary orbiting GMs and players out there, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.